Do you know the most dangerous person in a room? It's not the one speaking. It's the one everyone assumes isn't listening. People like you don't see things like this. No, people like me see everything. She cleaned his floors. He controlled billions. She moved through rooms unnoticed. He commanded rooms with a glance. And neither of them knew that one quiet morning would undo everything he built. This is not a love story. This is not a fantasy. This is a story about power and the cost of underestimating silence. Mariah, penthouse today. Be quick. He has investors coming. Yes, ma'am. Mariah Ellis had learned something early in life. When you want to survive, you don't take up space. She took the service elevator. 47 floors. No music. No mirrors. Just the hum of a building that never slept. Glass first. Desk last. The penthouse belonged to Elliot Crowne. Founder. Visionary. Billionaire. A man whose name sat comfortably beside words like integrity and innovation. To the world. No, delay the announcement. I want numbers finalized before Friday. He stops. Sees Mariah. Morning. Good morning, sir. Office is off limits today. Yes, sir. What Elliot didn't know was that Mariah once studied numbers that told stories. She used to believe data didn't lie, until life taught her that people hide the truth in complexity. Medical bills, dropped semesters, a future quietly folded away. Now she cleaned and listened. 10 minutes later, the office door was open. Just slightly. That's unusual. She hesitated. Rules mattered when you couldn't afford mistakes. But so did protocols. Inspect. Clean. Exit. She stepped inside. The room smelled like cedar and confidence. And on the desk, a tablet. Unlocked. Lit. No. Numbers filled the screen. But these weren't ordinary numbers. That's not budgeting. That's routing. Her mind sharpened. Circular transfers, layered ownership, deferred disclosures. Her pulse rose. You don't accidentally structure things like this. She memorized. Patterns. Flow. Timing. Then she powered it down. Placed it back. And left. Elliot Crowne returned that night with champagne and confidence. Another deal closed. Another city influenced. He sat at his desk. Reached for the tablet. Paused. That's odd. He checked the logs. Playback. Security footage. Rewind. There she was. The maid. Standing still. Too still. No one stands like that unless they understand something. Sir, you asked for Mariah Ellis? Yes. Now. Please sit. I'd rather stand. That was the moment he looked again. Not in her uniform. At her posture. Her eyes. You were in my office yesterday. Yes. You saw something. I saw enough. And what do you think you saw? A system designed to disappear responsibility. His smile faded. You realize what you're implying. I realize what you're risking. People with your job title don't threaten men like me. I'm not threatening you. I'm informing you. If you're still watching, pause for a moment. Because stories like this aren't about wealth. They're about who history listens to. If you believe truth deserves an audience, subscribe to Melanin Chronicles. Now back to the room where power shifted. What do you want? Nothing you can buy. Everyone has a price. That's where you're wrong. She turns to leave. If you walk out that door, things won't go well for you. She stops. Doesn't turn around. They already didn't. She exits. The first thing Mariah noticed was the silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that settles when people begin to watch themselves. The hallways still gleamed. The elevators still hummed. The penthouse still towered above the city like a promise made of glass and steel. But something had changed. Conversations stopped when she entered a room. Doors closed a second sooner than usual. Eyes lingered, then looked away. Power, she realized, was learning how to whisper. Mariah continued her routine. She arrived at the same time, wore the same uniform, moved with the same careful efficiency. But now every step carried weight. Not because she wanted it to, but because attention had found her. She didn't welcome it. She understood it. When people sense a shift, they search for its source. And Elliot Crowne had begun to sense the shift everywhere. Boardrooms were predictable. Negotiations followed patterns. Influence responded to leverage. But lately, Elliot felt something unfamiliar pressing at the edges of his certainty. It wasn't an accusation. It wasn't a confrontation. It was anticipation. He noticed it in emails that asked for clarification, in calls that ended with "we'll circle back," in the way people paused just long enough before agreeing with him. The world hadn't turned on him. It had begun to wait. At night, he stood by the penthouse windows, city lights sprawling beneath him, replaying the same moment again and again. Mariah Ellis, standing in his office, saying nothing unnecessary. He had faced rivals more aggressive than her. Regulators are more persistent. Media cycles are more ruthless. But none of them unsettled him the way her stillness did, because she hadn't asked for anything. People who want nothing are dangerous. Mariah noticed changes in the staff first. Meetings held behind closed doors. Supervisors are suddenly meticulous about schedules. Security checks run twice. She remained untouched, invisible but not forgotten. One afternoon, as she wiped down a glass conference table, she overheard two executives speaking in low voices. "Something's coming," one said. "I know," the other replied. "And I don't like not knowing from where." Mariah didn't slow her movements, didn't look up. She had learned long ago that fear makes people loud. She had also learned that certainty didn't require an audience. The journalist's name was Lena Ward. She didn't arrive with cameras or credentials on display. She arrived with questions, carefully framed, politely asked, and impossible to answer fully. Mariah first noticed her in the lobby. Professional, curious, unrushed. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second. Lena smiled. Not the smile of recognition, the smile of acknowledgement. Mariah looked away. Some truths moved faster when they weren't pushed. Inside Crown Global, Elliot's inner circle grew restless. His assistant, Nathan Cole, became quieter, more careful. His tablet was never far from his chest. His posture was permanently inclined toward readiness, as if bracing for instructions that might never come. At a private meeting, a board member finally spoke about what others had avoided. "We need to consider optics." Elliot's expression didn't change. Optics of what? Of everything. That was when Elliot understood. The danger wasn't exposure. It was erosion. Trust didn't shatter. It thinned. And thinning trust made people curious. Mariah had not planned an ending. She had never seen herself as a final act kind of person. Life had taught her to think in continuations, survive this, endure that, keep moving. But some moments demanded decisions. She stood alone one evening in an empty office, city lights casting long reflections across polished floors. She considered walking away. No confrontation, no declaration, just absence. But absence, she realized, would leave the story unfinished. And unfinished stories had a way of repeating themselves, with different names and the same outcomes. So she chose precision. The first article didn't accuse. It asked. It outlined patterns, raised timelines, pointed out consistencies too elegant to be accidental. Elliot read it twice, then a third time. It wasn't hostile. It wasn't dramatic. It was meticulous, the kind of writing that didn't seek attention because it knew attention would come. Calls followed. Partners asked for reassurances. Investors asked for meetings. Advisors asked for distance. Elliot gave measured responses. Calm statements. Familiar language. But something had slipped beyond his control. Because the most important shifts rarely announce themselves. They reveal themselves to those paying attention. Mariah resigned without ceremony. No announcement. No farewell. Her badge was returned. Her locker emptied. Her uniform was folded neatly and left behind. The building did not notice her departure. But people did. Whispers followed. Speculation bloomed. Questions multiplied. Elliot noticed most of all. He stood once again in his office, staring at the desk where the tablet had once rested. The space felt altered, not because something was missing, but because something had been understood. For the first time, Elliot Crowne felt the weight of being seen. Not admired, not feared, but comprehended. And comprehension stripped power of its illusions. Crown Global did not collapse. It didn't need to. Elliot stepped aside, in the interest of long-term stability. The phrasing was careful. The timing strategic. Markets adjusted. Boards restructured. The machine continued. But something irreplaceable was gone. The assumption. The belief that power could move unnoticed. Months later, Mariah Ellis appeared on a different stage. Not elevated, not adorned, grounded. She spoke at a quiet conference. No grand entrance, no dramatic reveal, just a voice that carried clarity. She spoke about systems, about accountability, about how complexity could hide truth or expose it. When asked how she learned to recognize patterns others missed, she answered simply, "When you are overlooked, you learn to observe without expectation." The room listened. Elliot watched the recording alone, not with anger, not with regret, with understanding. He had spent his life mastering influence and missed the lessons standing in his own halls. Power, he realized too late, was never about being above everyone else. It was about assuming no one beneath you mattered. She did not dismantle his empire with noise. She did not demand recognition. She did not ask permission. She simply paid attention and refused to look away. If this story resonated with you, share it. Subscribe to Melanin Chronicles for stories where truth doesn't shout, it waits. Because the next system is built on silence may already be listening. They thought I clean messes. I clean lies. Power thought it was alone at the top. It forgot who cleaned the stairs.